Get ready to immerse yourself in a compelling JRPG because today I'm going to show you why you need to play Final Fantasy VI right now. Final Fantasy VI is considered by many to be one of the best JRPGs ever made, and I've made it my job to convince you, whether for nostalgia or as a first time player, to experience this incredible title. I'm going to go through the story, spoiler free I might add, a few of the areas and a handful of the characters and talk a little bit about them, wrap it up all pretty, and then hopefully you'll be itching to play Final Fantasy VI. The best place for me to begin explaining is a small portion of the story from the beginning, just to build up the world a little bit so when I start to talk about the areas and characters later on you will have a better idea of what I am talking about, and also shed light on the kind of mood that the game sets. 1000 years ago, 3 goddesses descended from the heavens. In time they began to fear each other's power and this led to war. The humans that were unlucky enough to get in the way were turned into espers and mind controlled and used as pawns. In a rare moment of clarity, the goddesses realized their power brought only trouble and sealed themselves away along with their magic. The espers, now free from mind control, contained their own magic and lived alongside humans for some time, until they realized their magic can be drained from them and abused. They grow fearful of humans and so create their own dimension and seal the gate. In the present, 2 soldiers of the Castalian Empire and a young woman wearing a mind-controlling coronet named Terra are on their way to a mining city called Narsh, investigating a rumour of an Esper being found in the mines. Upon reaching the Esper, the 2 soldiers are destroyed by its power and Terra has a strange reaction to it. She wakes up in the house of a man named Arvis, a member of the Returners, a resistance group fighting against the Empire, and he removed the coronet and thus restoring Terra's thoughts. A knock on the door reveals the Empire are looking desperately for Terra, and so Arvis helps her escape. He sends a friend and thief named Locke after to ensure her safety. The pair head to a kingdom in the desert named Figaro. Terra is nervous at first because Figaro has an alliance with the Empire, but Locke asks for her trust. In Figaro, King Edgar is most welcoming to Terra and Locke, and asks them to make themselves at home in his castle. Shortly after, the court mage from the Empire shows up looking for Terra, and eventually tries to burn the castle to the ground when Edgar denies that she's there. The 3 make a daring escape from the burning castle as it defensively burrows into the ground and are chased by Castalian guards. In the fight, Edgar and Locke are astonished by the magic that Terra uses to secure their victory because magic has rarely been seen since the Espers, and are now convinced that it can be used to fight against the Empire. The trio head off to a nearby cave that leads to a town called South Figaro, where a nearby cabin contains many trinkets that reminds Edgar of his estranged brother Sabin, and search the nearby mountain to find him. With Sabin convinced to join their party, they journey to the Saber Mountains and the Returners' hideout, where the Returners recruit Terra in their rebellion. The leader, Bannon, tells her that it could be worthwhile to go back to Narsh and try and talk to the Esper in the mines, but in typical fashion the plan is interrupted by a wounded man claiming that South Figaro has been overtaken by the Empire and they're on their way to the hideout. The group split up. Locke daringly goes to South Figaro to get more information and finds an imprisoned Imperial general named Celeste and helps her escape, while Terra, Edgar, Sabin and Bannon escape the hideout on a raft. On the treacherous rapids, the 4 run into an octopus named Ultros and get locked in a fierce battle. Sabin chases to deliver the final blow but gets swept away in the current. And from here, our separated heroes lead different paths and even recruit new people to join them in their fight against the Empire. The battle system in Final Fantasy VI remains mostly the same, with the pseudo turn-based ATB making a return, but underneath it all, Final Fantasy VI takes a step back from the job system that appeared in some of the previous entries and introduces the Magicite system. A Magicite shard is the magical remnants of an Esper, and it can be equipped to any character to teach them magic, grant stat boosts, and even summon Espers. This acts as a pseudo job system where you can focus on building characters up in a certain area of expertise, or you can make your team a bunch of all-rounders that are good at everything but don't excel at anything in particular. Or, if you really want to grind, you can learn every spell with every character. Another noteworthy feature is desperation attacks, which are powerful attacks that are unique to most of the cast in the game. They're essentially the first iteration of the limit breaks that appear in later games and have a chance of appearing when your health is critical. There are so many areas that stand out in Final Fantasy VI that it's like stepping into an entirely different new era of design with its many areas and towns. There are a few in particular that I want to talk about why they stand out to me, and first up is the Phantom Train. From the moment you step aboard the Phantom Train, there's an atmosphere that is both chilling and captivating. The dark design of the train cars and the ghostly passengers contribute to the eerie ambience and evoke a sense of otherworldly dread. What truly sets the Ghost Train area apart is that it weaves a beautiful beautiful tale of loss in the afterlife. Interacting with the ghostly passengers reveals a series of emotional stories that can really tug on your heartstrings, and some of them even join your party, adding to the uniqueness of the area as a whole. The Phantom Train in Final Fantasy VI really is a standout segment that showcases the game's prowess in storytelling and game design. Its haunting atmosphere, emotionally charged narratives, and well-crafted gameplay really makes it a memorable and impactful chapter in Final Fantasy VI. Next up is the Magitech Research Facility, which perfectly blends steampunk aesthetics with a foreboding ambience where hissing steam vents and flickering Magitech lights create an industrial atmosphere that feels both advanced and ominous. But where this area truly excels is its ability to drive the overarching narrative of the story forward. Unraveling key plot points and shedding light on dark experiments makes it incredibly effective at building suspense and creating curiosity about the history and lore of the larger world of Final Fantasy VI. The Magitech Research Facility offers a refreshing mix of challenges. You'll be solving puzzles, sneaking around, and even hopping into those sweet Magitech armors. It contains such a large variety of things to keep you hooked. And lastly, for the areas, I couldn't not talk about the Opera House, which in my opinion is an absolute masterpiece, from the intricate and ornate wall decorations to the band below the stage. But it's more than just a set, it's an immersive experience of the glamour and drama of an operatic performance. It's home to one of the most memorable sequences in all of the Final Fantasy games, the Maria and Draco opera, which unfolds before your very eyes, a perfect blend of drama and romance pushed further by a beautiful score that'll just give you goosebumps. I genuinely couldn't believe that this was on a Super Nintendo cartridge, something that could make me feel so powerfully, something that stayed with me long after I put down my controller. The areas in Final Fantasy VI are never as simple as a path to the next dramatic moment. They're all interwoven into the story and its overarching narrative. They're never just a pretty facade, there's substance in every little detail, and it marries the gameplay with the story perfectly. What sets Final Fantasy VI apart from earlier entries was the time and thought put into developing the characters, so much so that those little sprites in a 2D game feel human. So I'm just going to have a look at 3 of the characters that resonated with me the most and talk a little bit about them. So I'm going to start with Locke, a charismatic young adventurer and thief that insists that he's a treasure hunter, full to the brim with that classic Final Fantasy charm. He's driven by a strong sense of justice, loyalty, and a desire to atone for past mistakes, which makes him incredibly relatable. His tragic history and the guilt he carries from his past adds layers to his character, fueling his motivations throughout the storyline. Locke's involvement in the game's events, particularly his commitment to protecting those he cares about, creates an emotional resonance that as a player I couldn't help but root for. He's a pivotal part of the game's narrative. His depth, charm, and role within the story make him stand out in this game. Whether it's his quest for redemption or his unyielding loyalty, his presence makes the game richer, and that's why I chose him. Next is Terra, with her unique green hair and her striking aura of mystique. Her tale revolves around a struggle for identity, grappling with her past, her origins, and the conflicting emotions within her. Terra's quest for self-discovery and understanding of her own abilities forms the emotional core of Final Fantasy VI and leaves a lasting impact on players. Her character development really is a roller coaster ride from vulnerability to resilience, and her evolution throughout the storyline is both heartwarming and inspiring. To me, Terra is the beating heart of Final Fantasy VI, with her personal journey, emotional depth, and resilience. She is a testament to the power of storytelling and gaming, showcasing how a character's inner struggles and growth will without a doubt leave a lasting impression on your gaming experience. And finally, there's Celeste. With her elegant appearance and captivating presence, Celeste stands out as a character who embodies both strength and vulnerability. Her design not only emphasizes her role as a powerful warrior, but also showcases her grace and complexity. She is a character defined by resilience and an inner struggle for redemption. Her journey from a loyal soldier of the Empire to a rebel fighting for a noble cause is a showcase of her depth and growth. Celeste's relationship with Locke is a huge standout for me, as it's built on mutual understanding and a shared sense of empathy. Both characters carry their own burdens and insecurities, which often affect their interactions, and it's these vulnerabilities probabilities that bring them closer together, building a connection that transcends all of the chaos and turmoil around them. Celeste from Final Fantasy VI is a character whose resilience, depth, and growth, as well as her compelling story arc and emotional journey, solidify her as a standout heroine out of all JRPGs for me, to the point that every now and then I watch the opera from Final Fantasy VI just to revisit her beautifully haunting performance. So now we're going to jump into the best way to play, and while all versions are certainly playable, there can be drawbacks that can impact your preference, so we're going to talk about that right now. The Super Nintendo version is always an excellent choice and in many cases can be considered the best version to play, as this is the hardware it was designed for. However, it does have some translation issues that can take some elements away from the story. It's still a great experience, and if you're going to play that version, just don't forget that it's called Final Fantasy III in the West. After that, we were treated to the PS1 version, which is how I played it initially, and while I loved it at the time, it can get quite tiring as the load times are pretty poor and the battles can be very slow. I would probably avoid it today because loading can really interrupt the flow of the story. And then we have the Game Boy Advance port, which adds extra dungeons, better translation, and other great content. However, due to technical limitations on the platform, the music was downgraded, and for some reason the sprites are brighter and can interfere with the mood of the game. I would personally avoid it for the music issues alone. Next is the mobile version, which was also ported to PC. I would straight up avoid this because the new sprites and interface are terrible. They look so out of place in comparison to everything else contained in the world of Final Fantasy VI. On top of that, the mobile version was ported without making the appropriate adjustments for PC and just showcases a lazy port. And finally, the Pixel Remaster version is the version I would recommend. It contains many quality of life fixes and even gives us new animations, effects, and sprites without compromising the original vision. Square Enix clearly put a lot of effort into this remaster, and it can be seen in so many aspects of this port. Final Fantasy VI is a game worth playing because it tells an incredible story and offers a lot of fun, with characters you care about and a plot that will keep you hooked. It's full of moments that jerk your feelings and keep you invested, whether it's about friendship, making tough choices, and finding a way to make things right. It constantly pulls you in. It looks great, sounds great, and has so many twists and turns that your head will spin. This game is one of the best of all time for a reason, so do yourself a favor and experience it. You won't be sorry. Thank you so much for watching my video, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button for more videos on unforgettable games you need to play.